Hello and welcome back at the FinetLink channel. Maybe you have set up your network, or maybe you are getting ready to do that. But there is something important that you should know. Setting up a network without securing it is like opening all doors and windows to your home and then going on a vacation. This means that anyone could come by, gain entry, steal, or break items, or just make a mess. You have seen even at the news that it is possible to break into any network. And for you, as a network administrator, is a part of your job to make it difficult for threat actors to gain access to your network. And for doing this, you have to know some important topics about network security. And this is going to be our topics in this material. The objective of this material is to configure switches and routers with device hardening feature to enhance security. And the topics that we will discuss will be the security threats and vulnerabilities, where we will explain how basic security measures are necessary on network devices. We will talk about network attacks, where we will identify security vulnerabilities, and we even be focused at the network attack mitigation, where we identify general mitigation techniques. And lastly, we will talk about device security, where we will configure network devices with device hardening feature to mitigate security threats. And at the first material of the network security fundamentals, we will be focused at the first two topics. So let's go. Let's go with the security threats and vulnerabilities. The first thing you have to know is to identify the type of threats. We know that wired and wireless computers networks are essential to everyday activities. Individuals and organizations depend on their computers and network. Intrusion by an unauthorized person can result in costly network outages and loss of work. Attacks on a network can be devastating and can result in a loss of time and money due to the damage or theft of important information or assets. Intruders can gain access to a network through software vulnerabilities, hardware attacks, or through guessing someone's username and password. Intruders who gain access by modifying software or exploiting software vulnerabilities are called threat actors. After the threat actor gains access to the network, there are four types of threat that may arise. The first one is information theft. This is when it is breaking into a computer to obtain confidential information. Information can be used or sold for various purposes, such as when someone is stealing proprietary information for an organization like research and development data. The second threat will be data loss and manipulation. In this case is when it's breaking into a computer to destroy or alter data records. An example of data loss is a threat actor sending a virus that reformats a computer hard drive. An example of data manipulation is breaking into a record system to change information such as the price of an item. The third one is the identity theft. It's a form of information theft where personal information is stolen for the purpose of taking over the identity of someone. Using this information, a threat actor can obtain legal documents, apply for credit, and make unauthorized online purchases. Identity theft is a growing problem costing billions of dollars per year. And the last type of threat that may arise will be disruption of service. In this case, is preventing legitimate users from accessing services to which they are entitled. Examples of include denial of service attacks on server, network devices, or network communication links. As for the types of vulnerability is the degree of weakness in a network or device. Some degree of vulnerability is inherited in routers, switches, desktop servers, and even security devices. The network devices under attack are endpoints such as servers and desktop computers. There are three primary vulnerabilities or weaknesses. We have the technological, configuration, and security policy vulnerabilities. All three of these sorts of vulnerabilities can leave a network or device open to various attacks, including malicious code attacks and network attacks. Here it is the first vulnerability, which is the technological. And here it is listed a table with the vulnerability and the description for each. We have vulnerability about the TCP IP protocols, about the operating system and the network equipment. And as you may see much further this table. And as for the configuration vulnerabilities, here it is listed at the table with the configuration vulnerabilities, where we have vulnerability about the unsecured user account, about system accounts with easily guessed password, misconfigured internet services, about the unsecured default setting with thin products, and misconfigured network equipment. And here it is even the description for each of those vulnerabilities. And as for the policy vulnerabilities, here it is the table listed with all the vulnerability as lack of right and security policy, politics, lack of authentication quantity, a logical access control that is not applied, software and hardware installation and changes due to not following policy, and disaster recovery plan is not existent. And for each of those vulnerabilities, it is listed even the description. And as for the physical security, you have to know that an equally important vulnerable area of the network to consider is the physical security of devices. If the network resources can be physically compromised, a threat actor can deny the use of network resources. And there are four classes of physical threats that are hardware threats, and this includes physical damage to server, router, switches, cabling, plant, and workstation. We have environmental threats, and this includes temperature extremes, too hot or too cold, or humidity extremes, too wet or too dry. Electrical threats, and this include voltage spikes, insufficient supply voltage brownouts, and unconditional power, noise, and total power loss. We have even maintained threats, and these include poor handling of key electrical components, which means electrostatic discharge, lack of critical spare parts, poor cabling, or even poor labeling. A good plan for physical security must be created and implemented to address this issue. Here it is a figure that shows an example of physical security plan, which means that you have to secure the computer room and you have to implement physical security to limit damage to the equipment. The first step is to lock up equipment and prevent unauthorized access from the door, ceiling, rise floor, windows, duct, and vents. The step 2 is to monitor and control closet entry with the electronic locks. And the step 3 is use security cameras. That was all about the security threats and vulnerabilities, and now let's go and continue with some network attacks. In this topic, we are going into more detail about how threat actors gain access to network or resist authorized users from having access. Malware is short for malicious software. It is a code or software specifically designed to damage, disrupt, steal, or inflict bad or illegitimate action on data, host, or network. Viruses, worms, and Trojan horses are types of malware. And let's see each of those malware in more detail. As for viruses, is a type of malware that propagates by inserting a copy of itself into and becoming part of another program. It spreads from one computer to another, leaving infected as it travels. Viruses can range in severity from causing mildly annoying effects to damaging data or software and causing denial of service condition. Almost all viruses are attached to an executable file, which means that the virus may exist on a system but will not be active or able to spread until a user runs or opens the malicious host file or program. When the host code is executed, the viral code is executed as well, which means that normally the host programs keep functioning after the virus infects it. But, however, some viruses override other programs with copies of themselves and destroy the host program altogether. Viruses spread when the software or document they are attached to is transferred from one computer to another using the network, a disk, file sharing, or even infected email attachment. And the second type of the malware was worms, which are similar to viruses that replicate functional copies of themselves and can cause the same type of damages. In contrast to viruses, which require the spreading of an infected host file, worms are standalone software and do not require a host program or human help to propagate. A worm does not need to attach to a program to infect a host and enter a computer through a vulnerability in the system. Worms take advantage of system feature to travel through the network unaided. And as for the third one, the Trojan horses is another type of malicious named after the wooden horse of Greeks used to infiltrate Troy. It is a harmful piece of software that looks legitimate. Users are typically tricked into loading and executing it on their system. After it is activated, it can achieve any number of attacks on the host, from irritating the users to damaging the host. Trojan horses are also known to create backdoors to give malicious user access to the system. Unlike viruses and worms, Trojan horses do not reproduce by infecting other files. Trojan horses may spread through user interaction, such as opening an email attachment or downloading and running a file from the internet. And here it is listed an animation where there is explained all three types of this malware. And as you can see that there are three types of malwares, and first it explains what is a virus and how it is spreaded. Then it explains how the worms are spreaded in the network and how they infect your network. And lastly, it explains the Trojan horses malware. In addition to malicious code attacks, it is also possible for networks to fall prey of various network attacks. Network attacks can be classified in three major categories. It is the reconnaissance attacks, which is the discovery and mapping of systems, services, or vulnerabilities. Access attacks, which is the unauthorized manipulation of data, system access, or user privileges. And the denial of service, which means the disabling or corruption of network, system, or services. For reconnaissance attacks, external threat actor can use internet tools such as NSLookup and with its utilities to easily determine the IP address space assigned to a given corporation or entity. After the IP address space is determined, a threat actor can then ping the publicly available IP address to identify the addresses that are active. To help automate this step, a threat actor may use a ping swap tools such as fping or gping. This systemically pings all network addresses in a given range or subnet. This is similar to going through a section or telephone book and calling each number to see who will answer. And here is a tool attack reconnaissance, and you may see the first one is the internet queries, and here is an animation that if you play it, you may see that the threat actor is looking for initial information about a target, where various tools can be used, including Google search, the website of organization, who is this, and more. And the second tool is the ping swaps. And with this here in this animation, you may see that the actor is initiating a ping swap to determine which IP address are active. And at the third tool is the port scan. And here in the animation, you will see that a threat actor is performing a port scan on the discovered IP addresses. And as for the access attacks, there are explicit known vulnerabilities in authentication services, FTP services, and web services to gain entry to web accounts, confidential database, and other sensitive information. An access attack allows individuals to gain unauthorized access to inform that they have no right to view. Access attacks can be classified in 4 types. And here you can see each of those types that are listed. The first one is the password attack. At the password attack, threat actors can implement password attacks using several different methods, as brute force attack, Trojan horse attacks, and packet sniffers. And as the second type is the trust exploitation. Here, in this type, a threat actor uses unauthorized privileges to gain access to a system, possibly compromising the target. Here it is an animation about the trust exploitation, and if you play this animation, you will see that the system A trusts system B, but the system B is trust everyone. The threat actors want to gain access to the system A, so therefore the threat actor compromises system B first and then can use system B to attack the system A. And at the third type of access attack is the port redirection. In a port redirection attack, a threat actor uses a compromised system on a base for attacks against other targets. The example here in this figure shows a threat actor using security shell at port 22 to connect to a compromised host A. Host A is trusted by host B, and therefore the threat actor can use telnet port 23 to access it. And the last one, as for the access attack, is man in the middle. In the man in the middle attack, the threat actor is positioned in between two legitimate entities in order to read or modify the data that passes between those two parties. Here, in this figure, it is explained how the man in the middle attack. The step 1, when a victim requests a web page, the request is directed to the threat actor computers. And at the step 2, when the threat actor computer receives the request and retrieves the real page from the legitimate website. And at the step 3, the threat actors now can alter the legitimate web page and make changes to the data. And at the step 4, the threat actors forward the requested page to the victim. And as the last part of the network access, and the third one about the network attacks was denial of service attack. And they are most published of attack and among the most difficult to eliminate. However, because of the ease of implementation and potentially significant damage, denial of service attacks deserve special attention from the security administrators. Denial of service attacks may take many forms. Ultimately, they prevent authorized people from using a service by consuming system resources. To help prevent denial of service attacks, it is important to stay up to date with the latest security updates of operating system and application. And there are two types of denial of service. We have the denial of service attacks and distributed denial of service attack. And at the first one, it is the major risk because they interrupt communication and cause significant loss of time and money. These attacks are relatively simple to conduct even by an unskilled threat actor. And here there is an animation, and you can see here in the animation how a threat actor is using the denial of service in the network so the user cannot access the web server. In this case, they are using the ping command, so they are overloading the server and the user cannot access it. And as for the distributed denial of service attack, they are similar to denial of service attack, but it is originated from multiple coordinated sources. In this case, a threat actor built a network or infect hosts known as zombies. A network of zombies is called a botnet. The threat actor uses a command and control program to instruct the botnet of zombie to carry out a distributed denial of service attack. And here it is another animation that explains how this distributed denial of service attacks happen. So first it will infect the computers in the network, and then they will use the distributed denial of service code to the server, in this case the web server. That was all about the network security fundamental at the first part. See you to the next session, and please do not forget to subscribe at this channel, like the video and share it with your friends. and hit the notification button for the new videos that will be uploaded. See you soon.